How's everybody doing? Welcome back to another episode of The Banker Next Door. I am your host, Dr. Joe Berquist. Just want to give a quick shout out to everybody at the Stonier Graduate School of Banking as Stonier Week continues to roll on through. Again, just I hope everybody at the faculty and students there are doing great and having a great time during the week. And so today I wanted to talk about the value of an MBA degree, considering, Stonier is what you would consider executive education. I saw this interesting article here that I want to bring up to everybody. So this article was entitled, "Employers Put a Price on Master's Degree. It's Changing Pay Scales." And I thought this was it brings up a very interesting conversation. Like, I have an MBA. And we're going to, as I said, as we go in here, I'll have some kind of thoughts and comments at the end. So let's look at this. So some hiring managers believe having a master's degree doesn't equal better performance. Having a master's degree could still lead to more money. A master's degree could be more beneficial in some lines of work than others. So many hiring managers don't believe workers who have a master's degree perform better than employees without that distinction, but they're still willing to pay for the advanced education. That was among the key takeaways from a recent survey by Resume Genius, which found that 62% of hiring managers said a master's degree doesn't improve job performance. That is amazing. 62% of hiring managers said a master's degree does not improve job performance. The report, which polled 1,000 hiring managers, noted that 52% of hiring managers said the performance of workers with a master's degree is the same as employees who have a bachelor's degree plus 2 years of experience, and 10% said workers with a master's degree perform worse. However, nearly 3 in 4 hiring managers, 72%, said they would offer a higher salary to a job candidate with a master's degree. Additionally, 23% of respondents said they would offer a salary increase of 20% or more. Hiring managers aren't convinced that higher education equals higher results, said Eva Chan, a career expert at Resume Genius, in the report. However, the data shows that employers are largely fine paying for the perception of potential that comes with a postgraduate degree, even when hiring managers don't see a master's degree as making someone more effective on the job. The credential still influences their salary offer. Chan added that the disconnect highlights how traditional signals of value still carry weight in today's workforce, even as experience becomes just as critical. A master's degree is considered the equivalent of having 2 additional years of work experience, according to Radford's career ladder system. How much a master's degree matter when it comes to job performance varies by age, with younger hiring managers showing the most confidence in the value of the advanced degree. Nearly half, 47% of Gen Z hiring managers said workers with a master's degree perform at a higher level. That figure slipped to 38% among millennials and Gen X hiring managers, and only 35% for baby boomers. A master's degree may not guarantee you'll be better at the job, but it still holds symbolic value in many workplaces. It can help you start with a higher paycheck, Chan said. Hiring managers often see it as a signal of drive, discipline, or long-term ambition, even if they admit that real-world experience can be just as or more valuable. In some industries, advanced degrees are still deeply embedded in hiring norms. Even if the performance outcomes are mixed, the salary component makes earning a master's degree worth the time and effort, according to some hiring managers. Younger hiring managers are more inclined to offer salary increases to candidates with a master's degree, according to the report. That generational breakdown has 80% of Gen Z and 78% of millennial hiring managers saying they would offer a higher salary to a candidate with a master's degree, while 67% of Gen X hiring managers and 62% of baby boomers said they would. For job seekers, the takeaway isn't that everyone needs to pursue a master's degree, Chance said. It's that a graduate degree can still open doors, especially in more traditional industries like finance, government, education, and healthcare, where credentials carry institutional weight. That said, for many roles in tech, media, or startups, building hands-on experience, skills, and a strong portfolio can be just as powerful and often more cost-effective than going back to school for yet another degree. So this is a very fascinating article. So, and what it gets back to, and again, and I would say this from experience, I have friends that own businesses. I have coworkers that run HR. I've worked at a number of different banks in my career. Um, I would tell you that the general sentiment is that basically MBAs don't really do anywhere near what they used to do for you. Back in the 80s and the 90s, if you got an MBA, it was an instant it was so worth the investment because it was instant fast track. You walk in the door, hey, I'm an MBA. Boom, you were right put in the C-suite, put on the executive track. You were making the big bucks, the nice salary. Life was good. Not so much anymore. Some companies, the MBA was kind of like the gold standard. It was like the requirement. You had to get the MBA to move up. Not so much anymore. Not so much anymore. I think more people put much more value on your work experience, your skills. What do you bring to the table? What can you deliver? How much revenue can you bring into the business? Can you streamline our processes? Can you build a better product? Can you get what is it that you can do? Do you have great leadership skills? Can you round everybody up, get everybody rowing in the same direction, kind of thing. And I think a part of it is there are way more MBAs now than they used to be. I think a lot depends on where you live. Like, in other words, if you live in a major metropolitan area, there's going to be a lot more MBAs in that area than like if you're in a more rural area, maybe not so many MBAs running around. But if you're like where I am in like the Philly metropolitan area, man, there's a lot of MBAs out there. There's a lot of MBAs out there and a lot of people running around with MBAs. So it kind of loses, when everybody has one, kind of loses a little bit of its luster. And I don't mean to say that everybody has one, because that's not really the case. I think when you look at numbers, it's very interesting. I mean, only about 30% of the people in the country, and if you look at the US, only about 30% of people, about 30% have college degrees. Of those college degrees, I think maybe about 8 or 9% have probably like an MBA or a graduate degree. So it's still a relatively small percentage of the population, but those people are concentrated in your major employment areas. So it gets kind of watered down. The other thing is that I truly believe, like, I intentionally waited. I wanted to wait until I had 10 years of work experience under my belt before I went back to get the MBA, because I felt like the MBA, coming out and getting an MBA without any work experience, I felt like that didn't matter, that it didn't really help me. And a lot of people go back, because a lot of schools now are saying, oh, hey, stay for an extra year, get that MBA. And a lot of students look at it and go, you know what, the economy is not that great this year. I think I'll just stay one more year, get the MBA, and then I could go out to the job market and command more money because I got this MBA or whatever. But I don't think that's good that schools do that. I think it's bad. And if I was, advising schools, I would say stop doing that. Because you're loading kids up with all this education, but they have no work experience. And then when they get out there, sometimes people don't want to, again, and that's what plays into this stereotype or this attitude where people go like, oh, I wouldn't hire an MBA because, somebody has an MBA, but they've got, 2-3 years of work experience and they want to get paid like somebody who's got an MBA that's been working for maybe 20 or 25 years. And that doesn't equate. And like I said, and I think that leads to some of this issue here with people going, oh yeah, like MBAs are worthless. Why would I pay for an MBA? Or why would I get an MBA? Or why would I hire an MBA? They don't do anything. Whereas I felt personally, waiting that 10 years, getting that 10 years of work experience, and then going back and getting the MBA, I felt like I got way, way more out of the experience because I was now able to apply not only what I had learned undergrad and college, but also now 10 years of real world work experience, real life experience to that degree. And I felt like I got a million times more out of it. And I think that that's where the MBA really works. I think that if you're waiting till people have a certain level of work experience before they're going back to get the MBA, I think then it works. And then some of those other comments that we saw about some people hiring because they believe that it shows, ambition. It shows that, people are dedicated, that they're working, that they want to get better, that they want to get to a certain place in their career. I believe all that is true. But it's I guess it's all about the timing of it, right? So, would I say that an MBA degree is worthless or it's not worth the investment? No, absolutely not. I have an MBA. I thought it was worth it. I thought I thought it made me a way better employee. I feel like my acumen, my understanding of a lot of things went way, way up after earning an MBA. But I also understand a lot of the points of this argument here, basically like why people think that MBAs aren't worth the money, or why they wouldn't hire MBAs, or why maybe an MBA may not be totally necessary. Again, I think that some of the dynamics in the work are changing, so that maybe the MBA needs to be changed a little bit or adapted to maybe the way that certain things are changing, which I think it will. I think it naturally will. But there are things in the MBA that are taught that are critical. They're very critical. It has you. The MBA has you think on a different level. It has you think very differently about things. It has you consider all types of different strategies. It gives you all kinds of different tools on how to evaluate a lot of things that go on within the business, how to look at the value chain, if you will, break down the different components of a business, look at revenue, look at marketing, look at accounting, understanding how all these things work together, how they all function and all work together to form your overall business strategy. That's what an MBA does for you. So again, I think there is still a tremendous amount of value. It just depends on the situation. It depends on the person, the industry they're in, what they're doing, how much they're going to spend on the degree, what they think the return on investment is going to be. So again, it's a very, very interesting conversation here. So, but that being said, I will wrap up with this. I'll basically say, hey, look, I'd love to hear your comments on this one. So, but please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, as that really helps the channel. Remember, we are on YouTube, Rumble, and all major podcast platforms. Please be sure to leave your comments down below. And as always, make sure to check out some of the other content on the channel. I thank you so much for listening. I hope everyone has a great day out there, and I'll see everyone again real soon. Thanks.